All right. Welcome, everyone, to ALD No Limits. I'm Christie.
And I'm Ken. We have our special guest today. Barbara Machado is joining us. Now, you may have heard of that name before, everyone. ALD
She
Connect
is famous.
Ambassador of the Year in 2025, along with Julie, too, who you've also already heard from. So we've got royalty up in this program. So this is
Right.
this is such an honor to speak to everyone. But pretty cool.
Yes. So, Barbara, we're so happy to be here with you today and chat about your journey. But first, could you tell us a little bit about yourself outside of ALD? Who is Barbara Machado?
Oh,
Um,
you
the
don't want
most
that one. You want this one.
most important thing outside of ALD is I'm a wife, 45 years to my husband Lee, and mother of 3 and grandmother of 4. And that's my claim to fame right now.
Well, that's an amazing family you have.
Yeah,
That is.
Wonderful.
live in Bridgewater, Massachusetts, which is about 30 miles south of Boston. So I'm very fortunate in that I get to go in to see the team at Mass General for my checkups and have been able to since I finally decided to suck it up and go to a neurologist.
Well, good for you. So take us back. Take us back to maybe learning about ALD. What did that look like? And yeah, just tell us about your journey a bit.
Well, I was diagnosed through my son. My son was diagnosed finally when he was 9 years old. He was diagnosed correctly. He had been sick since birth, episodes, vomiting, dehydration, hospitalization, the whole routine since he was born. He'd have some quiet times, but then continued on and on until when he was in first grade. His first grade teacher and staff were so concerned about him, and the speech therapist told me he did not have enough breath to support a sentence, to speak a sentence. And I knew this, and, trying to get him diagnosed, we'd done all kinds of testing and whatever. And this was back in 19 whatevers. And when you had to go to the library, not Google Land, to
Right.
research. And so I had done that. And one of his hospitalizations, I even asked outright, have you tested him for Addison's? They said they did, and whatever. And I was called an unfit mother by a doctor because he was hospitalized so many times. And then
Mm.
one night he was in the ER again, and we had a pediatrician on call, sent him directly into Boston, diagnosed the next day with Addison's. And it was like seeing a newborn puppy. Once he was on the steroids, his medicine, it was incredible. And they diagnosed him with adrenomyeloneuropathy. And at the time, I was able to find the United Leukodystrophy Foundation,
So,
called Paula Brazil and asked her, and she told me, no, they cannot tell you which it is. So I forcefully requested that he be referred to Kennedy Krieger, and we did get there, and he was diagnosed, Dr. Moja. He was already symptomatic, which I knew. I was seeing problems with his hearing and other things. And from there he was referred directly to Minnesota for a transplant. And, you know, that whole thing, he was the 7th in the United States at the time. And it was his oncologist that asked me one day, "Do you know why you have difficulty walking?" It's like, no, and I wasn't even on my radar. And he explained female and whatever and da da da. And I just put it in my bottom pocket, and it was, my son was my priority and continued to be until a few years later. My daughter asked my husband why I kept falling down all the time. And at that time, you know, I'd fall down, but I could pick myself up and keep going. And that's what I did. But I had many people in my family suggesting that it was time I tried to take care of myself. So that's when I started. In my early 30s, I went for my first neurologist appointment. And that's when I learned truly about ALD, and I understood what my mother had had difficulty. I had grown up with knowing of a brother that died before I was born, childhood disease. He started having symptoms and had passed within a year. And I grew up with this. I relayed that information to all of my son's doctors, all the kids' pediatricians, obstetricians, everybody, and nobody connected the dots. And so, but now we know that that's what it truly probably was, ALD, you know. So that's the history of that.
Okay.
That's quite a
So
journey, Barbara.
it's a lot. That's a journey indeed. Yeah.
And I'm so sorry for all of the challenges on the way. So much heartbreak and challenge and struggle. And so tell us kind of where you're at now.
Where I'm at now, well, I'm officially old. I've got my Medicare card. I had my 65th birthday last year, and you know, I had to stop working. The doctor said I had to stop working at 55. I tried to push it. I had a power chair and all of that, but I couldn't. I was a teacher's aide, and that did not fit in the classroom. So I was still using my forearm crutch, and I, you know, had AFOs, but it was a struggle. And so I actually agreed. You know, it was time. But I loved my job. I loved every bit of it. I miss it. I miss people. I miss people. I miss the kids. So, but I was fortunate that I was able to work as long as I did, you know, but that's what I did.
Well, that's wonderful. As a former educator myself, I understand what you're talking about, because kids definitely,
Yeah.
you know, with the energy. What grade level were you working with?
I worked in a first grade classroom for 10 years. And then I was a one-on-one for a couple years. Then I finished in 4th grade. I got promoted to 4th grade at the end.
Yeah.
It's wonderful.
Yeah, I found a couple of people that we've talked to, you know, losing, not being able to continue to work, and how that is a big adjustment, and that's ALD doing what ALD does, and it's bull crap, as we say. So
Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't know if you want to go into it, but your son actually went to Minnesota. Do you want to go into that at all? How that all went about?
Well, at the time, as I said, it was just all new,
Yeah.
all new, all beginnings. So there were a lot of, um, just being on I mean, we all flew out as a family because we all were tested, and my son was not affected. My daughter is affected. But my son was also, back in the day, it was 6 out of 6, and he matched. So he was 6 years old. My son was 9 at transplant. My his he said he would be the donor because he didn't want his baby sister to cry.
Mhm.
So, because I was told I had to tell the children what was going on, or someone from social services would tell them at the hospital. They had to know why he had to understand why he was donating. And so when he said that, my son that was affected, he said, "Don't worry, Tony. I'm not gonna die." He was just always such a positive, he was so positive. Everything was going to be fine, even with all the hospitalizations and everything. He was just so tough, 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 tough. And I speak of him when I say was, he just turned 44. And I have a son that's 44, and so um, he was diagnosed with AMN. Um, uh, of years back, he was struggling and falling, and he was always afraid ALD was going to come back,
Mm.
and it did. And so he went through a time where he wasn't he gonna, not going to the doctor, not gonna, and I got it, but he has since been to the doctors and still struggles with that whole piece of accepting what's now happening. Uh, you know, thought thought we got rid of this monster, but we didn't. And he's not eligible for any trials or anything because he's had a transplant. So
Yeah.
he's not eligible for anything. But he's 44 and he's living life. And
Good.
yeah, yeah. So we are grateful, certainly grateful.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think, just going back to when you were talking about the Addison's diagnosis, you really listened to your instinct as a mom. And I think that's a great message because, you know, oftentimes in the medical world, yeah, I mean, they called you an unfit mother. How
Yeah,
horrifying. Like you were just
yeah,
listening to your instinct and doing the right things. And it was life saving in the end.
yeah.
Um,
Well, that's
No.
what people told me, because I had a woman, my husband and I went to the ULF conference uh, after transplant, and we met a woman. Well, we met lots of people, but there was a woman there in a wheelchair. And again, I didn't pay attention to the wheelchair, a female wheelchair. I was there trying to soak up information about for my son. It evidently, my husband was taken aback. It registered with him, but I wasn't about female or me, at the time. And she told me, she said, if your son hadn't, the tenacity of, you know, and she was kind in the words she said, but you know, yeah, I know his oncologist in Minnesota one morning, after he had been readmitted for like the third time, said, don't mess with her. She's got bigger balls than you do. So that's kind of, but, you have to, it's what it is. And, now with the newborn screening, and I just am in awe that in my lifetime, in the 30 years that I've, you know, that now boys will be diagnosed with Addison's early and not have to go through what my son went through. It just makes me so grateful with all of the progress that's transpired. It's just miraculous. It's unbelievable to me, from not knowing and my mother not knowing and not understanding. And now these boys won't have to go through what my son went through.
Absolutely. It's awesome.
Yeah, so much progress. And, my son certainly benefited from the newborn screening as he was diagnosed with Addison's prior to any symptoms. So,
Yeah.
that totally resonates with me, Barbara. And I'm so sorry for what your family has had to go through. But it's remarkable the hope that you have and the positivity that exudes from, your words and what you're talking about here.
Yeah.
You've got I feel like you've got I feel go vibes. Like you're just going and you're going to keep going and no one's telling she can't not go. And, that's the type of attitude I feel like you need with ALD because, it comes at you and yeah, you've got to push back and just keep going.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, can I share a story? When
Yeah.
when I was working and my daughter was in college, she was going to be an educator and she was doing her student teaching at my school. So we'd ride to work together. And I fell down one Friday in our driveway, and Friday was wear jeans. You could wear jeans. And I fell down. I ripped my knee out in my pants. And, I got back up and got my crutch and got back up. And I was so angry that my pants were ripped. And my daughter was just like, Mom, I can't believe it. You fall down and all you care about is that you ripped your jeans. And I said, well, that's because those were my good going to work jeans, And, but that's what my husband will say, that when we were in Boston Wednesday, she's tougher than, you know, but it's part of my genetics. My mother was tough, everybody. It's just, you know, you just got to keep going. I'm not one to lay on the couch and have a pity party. I might for a day or for a couple hours, but then there's things to do and I'm going to do them.
Yeah, that is inspiring. It's really inspiring.
Love it.
So, yeah, speaking about the couch and just lifestyle in general, like what sort of keeps you, are you active at all? How do you look at health at this point and management of your health and daily activities?
Well, I can't do very much at home, and I can drag myself around. I wouldn't call it walking with a rollator, and I take a wheelchair when we go anywhere. And my husband got me a scooter for outside years ago. Well, I was actually given a hand-me-down one years ago, so I could go in my yard because I love working in the dirt, playing in the dirt. And I was able to drive around and then throw myself off and crawl around and dig, whatever. And so, but it's not something I can do anymore. I can't crawl anymore. So now I'm in the house. I try to do what I can. As a matter of fact, after I had the last surgery, the PT and OT, they said, and I've heard it before, you do more what you do than any physical therapy or OT could do, because I like to show something for what I'm doing. So I still like to bake, and I prop myself, I bend my knees and knee them up against the cabinets and lay on the counter, and it's a hot mess. It's a hot mess. And the OT doesn't like it, and they didn't like watching me try to do laundry because I again throw myself up against one thing or another. But um I I have to be useful, I want to, and it's good for me because that's keeps my body moving. When I sit for too long, it hurts well, it hurts all the time anyway, but might as well get something done, you know. So I like to be useful. My husband has to do a lot more of things that I used to do. So I want to try and do as much as I can.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I resonate with the throwing yourself. It was
Yeah.
throwing ourselves,
Yeah.
but yeah, I do that too, like, but get the job done, and then I was actually
Yeah.
live on YouTube, that was the other week, this is about me, but I, like, literally lost my balance, and I
Yes.
went down
I
the bu
watched that. I
yeah.
watched that.
I
Yeah.
was
I
like,
saw
"Man
that.
down." I was like, "It's fine,
Yeah.
get back up, we're good to go." But
Yeah.
I even adapted. The one day I was cooking, I was like, I literally pulled a chair over. I'm like, "Why am I standing here? Because if I stand here, I could potentially lose my balance." So it's just like
Yeah.
adjust and adapt, like everything. But yeah, no,
Right.
I resonate with that and being useful and keeping active. You got the things need done. So, and we're
Yeah.
not dead, so we're here. We are.
No. No. No.
And it sounds like you have a very supportive family, a supportive husband. Who are the other people sort of on your team, your, personal team that are supporting you on this journey?
Well, I have to say, my husband is, I know it has to be so frustrating for him he wants to help, and I'm not good at asking for help,
Mm.
and it's very difficult for him. And I remember trying to help my mother, and I know what he's dealing with to the nth degree, but he's there. I don't talk about myself or, to anyone. Like, nobody knew what was wrong with me when I went to work with my AFOs the first day and the rollator. One woman came up to me and said, "Well, I wondered what was wrong with you. I thought you were drunk," because I used to wall walk all the
Yeah.
time, and it's like, wow, thank you. But so I don't talk about me, and I don't, so mm, it's probably, I don't know, it's just, I'm a good listener, I've been told straight up, but I always deflect and ask about someone else. So I know people are there and people would be there, but not as far as me and the ALD part of me. I don't know if you can understand what that I'm trying to say.
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, you're very selfless, and it sounds like you have been your whole life, thinking about others and caring for others. So,
Yeah,
asking others for help, it sounds like you said, it's just something that you don't do.
yeah,
But I want to advocate that it's okay. It's okay to ask for help when you need it.
I know.
It is. But
And I'm the first one that helps anybody and always have been. I'm just not good the other way around.
Well, thank goodness for this podcast because
I-
we're just putting it out there. So, for
Yeah.
those of you who'd like to
Uh,
support Barbara, like
uh,
she's she's a great lady. No, do you in the ALD community, do you talk to other ALD patients, like specifically women or moms? Do you find any community there?
well, that is what, ALD Connect is just, and again, I think about the ULF and going to that conference and meeting parents of, there was one other parents of a boy, and but to meet anybody at that point in time was just incredible. And I was in connection with another mom. That was when phone calls were toll and it cost money and like
mhm.
that. So, now I participate in the community calls for women, and I am, I talk to women, I email with other women, um, and it's just to know there's other women out there. My only hesitation early on was I didn't want other women, if I said something, I didn't want to scare younger women as to symptoms, because
Right.
there's a host of them, and I didn't want to scare anyone. But now I've been told it's okay because it's different for everyone, and which I knew, but I just to have the community and people saying that it's okay, and just to have that connection with everyone, like I talk to Ken and I bother him all the time, and so it's just wonderful to have that community.
The pleasure. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, we've talked about it before, but community is good. I mean, you can keep it all inside, but it's
Yeah.
not. No, no. So yeah, so let's. mm, where do we want to take the conversation from here? Do we have any other outlets we want to touch, Christy? Don't.
I mean, I guess I'm just curious about your daughter because you said she tested positive for ALD. So I know you're not her spokesperson, but
Yeah.
Right.
I'm just curious, do you think she'd be comfortable share if you shared kind of her experience and where she's at with everything?
I actually asked my children if I could share the picture. So I wanted to get their input, what I wanted to let them know I was doing this, and I got thumbs up. So, yeah, my daughter, like I said, she was tested initially when we all were. But again, I put that wasn't where we were then. She was 3 and we were going to transplant. So when we finally got back from Minnesota months later, again, my son recovery and healing took a long, long, long time. And, but when she, got a little bit older, I needed to know exactly, because her carrier status, her ALD status wasn't made clear to us. So I asked her pediatrician, he was good in trying to get it done. And I took her to have her blood, it was a blood draw back then, and I explained to her why. And so the results came when she was at work. She was in high school. She was 16. And I opened them and I cried. And, I talked to Boston. I talked to my Dr. Eichler and geneticist, and I told her, and it was just kind of put under the rug. And then when she was, you can edit this, but I'm just telling you, I put her on birth control, and she before she got married, she had already had the talk with her fiance, whatever. But my heart, and this is just who I am, I needed to make sure, and I wrote him a letter and to give to him, and just because I needed to know from me that they, and she just laughed at me. She laughed at me, but it was just something I needed to do before they were married. And so yeah, and she is 30 some odd now, 37, and knock on wood, my baby girl can still run. And
Nice.
so yeah, I'm very grateful. But it's difficult being a mom and watching, being scared to death, and both kids, and feeling so guilty. So,
Right.
but
No, I think that part right there, I mean, I'd love to keep it in this video just because I think family planning and planning,
yeah,
that's a big thing, especially in
yeah,
your situation. Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
But
yeah,
that,
yeah, yeah.
Well, I
Some
think it
people,
is a conversation for, parents of girls and
yeah,
boys about around family planning. But the
yeah,
girl piece sometimes, falls on that reproductive,
yeah,
do we tell them at the time of reproduction? Do we tell them before? I have my own personal feelings about all of that, being the mom of a girl, but
yeah,
it's an
yeah,
interesting conversation, and I think a good one to have in the community. So thanks for sharing
yeah,
your experience.
yeah.
yeah.
And your daughter, she does not have children, or
She has two.
oh,
She
she has
has
two.
two. She did IVF.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah,
Wonderful. Wonderful.
yeah. The first, well, clarify, the first one, she did not. And I was thrilled, when she told us she was pregnant, but my heart was in my belly. And then when they did the reveal thing that they do when the blue came out, everyone was jumping and laughing, and I was a mess inside until I got back into our vehicle, and then I busted out crying. And so for the remainder of her pregnancy, until we got, she called me with the test results, the newborn test, that he was okay. I was a hot mess inside.
Yeah.
So, and then she did IVF with her second pregnancy.
Okay.
So, yeah, yeah,
And you are blessed with grandbabies. That's
Yeah.
wonderful.
yeah, Yep, yep. So my boy that was not affected has 2 girls. Yep.
Nice.
So ALD ends here with our family.
That's
Yes.
great.
That is powerful.
It is. I've heard that from a lot of families. Yeah, ALD ends here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So, okay, going back to current status. So you use a wheelchair, you bake and cook and do laundry still, and see clinicians for monitoring, or how often do you feel like you're going to the doctor?
I don't like going to the doctor. I don't do doctors. As a matter of fact, Boston called me and said, we need to see you because and they want to see me. I went Wednesday. They want to see me again in 3 months. And right now, I'm going to help them learn, which I've always done. I'm going to, this is, because a lot of my symptoms, when I first started having tremors in my hand and I couldn't write, and, then my head started shaking and I couldn't swallow and all these other things, they had, they weren't attribute. They had just begun to say that females were affected, but I was told from the waist down, but I was having trouble up here in my arms and hands, and so it took a number of years before them to catch up with me, but so now they've caught up with me, and I hope that I've helped them learn, and but I guess I will be going more often, but it's not for my benefit. They can't do anything for me. There's the pain and everything. The physical therapy, nothing. There's nothing anymore. And as much as I say I go to help them, when Dr. Eichler said it to me the other day, this won't help you, but hopefully it will help someone in the future. That kind of was a gut punch, but it's okay.
Yeah.
Over the years, I've pushed it and pushed it and pushed it and pushed it. Whereas if I wasn't so stubborn, or my husband says stubborn, I call it independent. If I wasn't so independent, I could have, even now, I could easily just, I'm done. I'll sit in a chair. I don't know what's wrong with me. I just can't. That's
I
why
think that's everything that's right with you, Barbara. My
I
goodness.
I just can't stop. That's why I missed the conference, because I fell and broke myself right before.
Yeah.
But
I love your tenacity. I think that's everything that's going right.
yeah,
So if you had to say something to researchers, clinicians, like fix this one thing, what would it be? What would the one thing be?
the pain, the pain. I would love to have a day without pain. That would be awesome.
So that goes into the question: if you could live one day without, if you could live one day without ALD, what would you do?
What would I do? I would, I would, there's a couple of things that popped into my brain. I would like to go for a walk. I used to love to walk. I would like to walk hand in hand with my husband.
That is so nice. In a tropical location, or where would you be? On the
I
street?
I could be right here. And I'd
Keep it
be
simple.
I could be right here and I'd be perfectly happy. I should be on his level uh, and walk hand in hand and not have him be pushing me. I'd rather, that
Yeah.
would be key. I'd also like to go in the ocean and jump waves again. I would
Yeah.
love to get in the ocean, but every time years ago when I tried getting past the wave, they'd knock me down. I could never get past that wave. So I haven't been in the waves for a long, long time.
Me
I
either.
love
Not that I
that.
haven't tried, but I have a feeling it would be awfully difficult. So yeah.
Yes. Yeah. It'd kick your butt.
Go kick your butt. Yeah. Yeah. And that's what people say too, like as far as like sand, sand and no, my feet I don't think would prefer the sand, but
Oh, you should see me, Ken. My daughter takes me, and there's a cement walkway she wheels me to.
yeah.
And then I get to the edge, and she grabs hold of me on one side, and I'm barefoot, just socks on, walking across. And I have my old forearm crutch on the other side. And we get a few steps, and then I crawl the rest of the way down, and her kids are so sweet. They always have been since they've been babies. But I crawl down to the water and I still have gone to the beach with
Yeah.
her help. But yeah, I look like I should be home, but if I can still go, I'm still going.
I love that. You should go.
Absolutely.
You should go if it brings you joy, right?
Yeah.
So, what would you tell fellow patients who are either newly diagnosed or the moms of babies who are newly diagnosed? What advice do you have for fellow ALD patients?
Oh, you know what? As I said, now what's being done and the snowball that's rolling and rolling and rolling now, I just have so much hope for everything. And reach out and take advantage of everything that's out there, and don't be shy. Be honest. Be honest with doctors, community, and yourself. Be honest with all of it and do what's best for you. And just, but don't just live as an ALD person. Live, not just as a mom of an ALD patient, or try to get yourself beyond that for at least some part of each and every day.
Yeah.
Those are good words. Absolutely. Yeah. Don't let ALD become you. It's
Right,
there, but you can still be
right,
you.
right. Yeah.
Yes. Well, Barbara, it's been such a pleasure talking to you today. And as you know, our goal with ALD No Limits is simple. It's to connect and empower and shine light on the experience of those living with ALD.
Yeah.
Your story and your experience is inspiring. And like I said, it's been a real pleasure talking to you.
Well, I thank you for letting me do this. I know I'm old, but what I've seen, it's like I feel like my mother must have seen from going from an outhouse to a microwave. That's how I feel about the ALD research and what's changed in the time I we were fortunate when my son was transplanted in 1991. Lorenzo's Oil movie was out at that time, so there was some information and attention to it, and then that was it, you know. But I just think now it's a snowball and nobody's gonna stop it. Nobody's gonna stop it. So thank you guys.
Oh, thank you. That was awesome.
Yes, thank you.
All
And
right,
remember,
guys.
for those listening and watching, remember to subscribe and like and comment.
No
And
worries.
we're on Instagram, so
That's right.